Yo, what's going on? This is Sham Sakpase here with a tutorial on getting your drums to knock. I'm always getting um, tweets and Instagram DMs asking me to mix people's songs, and I'm not a mixer, so I don't mix people's songs. So I figured I'll just give you guys just some tips and some tools on how to enhance your drums and make them knock. So you don't necessarily have to be insecure on whether or not your records are knocking, or if you don't have access to an affordable mix engineer for your music to sound as professional as you possibly can. So uh, what we're gonna use a beat that I did on Nicki Minaj's last album, on the Pink Print, titled "Win Again." It was a record that I produced and collaborated with Ace Harris and Uncle Steve. So shout out to Uncle Steve and Ace. And we're just gonna pull it up and get going. So generally, what I do to kind of get my drums to knock is I use Transient Designers or Transient Shapers. Essentially, what a transient is essentially like the highest peak in a wave. Um, that's the best definition that I could give it, because I don't know like the Webster's definition for it. So I generally use the Native Instruments Transient Master plugin. Now there are a bunch of different kinds of plugins that you can use. I think SPL has a transient shaper that's pretty dope. I think Waves has a transient shaper. Who else? I think there's one called Bittersweet, I believe. I don't remember the name of it, but I generally use Transient Master to kind of get my drums to really cut through and have my snares to have a lot of crack to it. So what I'll do is I'm gonna play the beat by itself. Make sure there aren't any like plugins or anything on here as it relates to drums. So all right, so that's pretty much the beat. This is the stem session, so we have a lot more control over everything. So let's kind of get to it. What I'm first going to do is I'm going to mute all of the melodic instruments so we can kind of focus solely on the kick and snare and any other instrument that we might want to put a transient master on. So I'm going to, get about a bar just so we can kind of hear kick. I'll shorten it so we don't have to wait. So that's essentially the kick by itself, dry. For the most part, everybody has the same drum samples. You know what I'm saying? For the most part. So, again, like I said, Native Instruments, I use their Transient Master. There are a bunch of different plugins that you can find. There are a lot of free plugins out there that I actually use and download a lot of free plugins. I think it's actually a good idea to download free plugins because you can essentially get familiar with just the theory and just the application and what the knobs mean, and then you could apply it to any plugin, right? So here's the Transient Master. When you first pull it up, the limiter button is on there, and I always disengage it because I don't really like the limiter on the Transient Master. I think it just changes the texture of the drum way too much, you know. So you can hear it, and it's pretty dry right now. And then once you take the attack, and I guess what happens is it kind of helps give definition to that attack point, right? And as you can hear, it kind of punch and cut through a lot more than before. So here it's on, this is off, on, off, on, off, right? Cut that back on. And then what I also do is take the sustain, and I generally put it like right around 50. It kind of just tightens it. So again, on, off, on, off. So you can hear. Now, I haven't put a compressor on there. I haven't EQ'd anything. This is completely dry. There's just a kick sample and a transient shaper, right? So we have that going. And now I'm going to do the same thing to the snare. Bring the attack up. Well, first take this limiter off. Bring the attack up. Off. Well, it's on. Off. On. Off. On. Off. Cool. And then I always take the sustain, and I probably do it right around the same, about 50. Again, you kind of tweak it to your liking and make it suit whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish. So you can hear the huge difference. So let's go ahead and bring some of the melodic instruments. Bother me. Full screen that. Oh, it was full screen. All right, so let's get some melodic instruments so you can kind of hear how pronounced it is. Just creates a lot more definition. So off. Right? And you cut that back on. Again, off. On. Cool. So that's basically it. It's not really too much magic going into it. It's just literally helping the drums be a lot more defined and pronounced and cut through in your mix. I also kind of put transient shapers on hi-hats too. I think it helps it just get a lot more crisp. So again, I take the limiter off, right, and then turn up the attack. Sustain down a little bit. And there you go. That's essentially it. You know what I'm saying? So that's pretty much it. Transient Shaper Designer really helps bring out your drums without having to use compressors on there. I think it's a great tool to be able to help you get to a point in your mix prior to getting it to a mix engineer, it's a great tool. You know what I'm saying? I think you should give the mix engineer the best opportunity to just focus on the spacing and the depth in your records. So if you can't necessarily afford, a mix engineer, like one of like the big dogs mixing your records, this is a great tool, a great process that'll enable you to kind of get the most out of your pre-production, and then you can kind of go from there. So thanks for tuning in. You can follow me on Instagram at SacPasse365. You can also like my page on Facebook, facebook.com/SacPasse365 as well. I'll be doing like live sessions sometimes. I'll do some live Q&As because I think it's really dope to kind of, share a lot of the information that I have over the years that I've gained over the years. So Facebook SacPasse365, and then if there are like specific questions that y'all might have for me, things that you guys might be trying to figure out, you could hit me on Twitter, SAK_PASE on Twitter, and you can just hit me up and ask me, how do I do this, how I do that. I'll ask, if I don't know it, I'll just, ask some friends on like some techniques. You can also go to my website, sacpasse.me, and I'll just have a bunch of information on what's going on with me, like what I'm working on, just information that I think could be helpful and useful to people trying to get more information on the music industry and those kind of things. So thanks again. Like the pages and subscribe on the YouTube as well. And I'll check y'all later.